So the simple barrier operation doesn't work entirely, and we look now at why it doesn't work. Let's consider only two cores. Core 0, which we will show in blue color what it's doing, and core 1, which we will show in this color what it's doing. What they're both doing initially is doing something before they arrive to the barrier. And let's say that core 0 arrives here first. So what core 0 does is resets release to 0, increments the count to 1, unlocks the lock, checks whether the count is equal to 2, and starts spinning, waiting for the release to become 1. So now release is still 0 because we just reset it, and core 0 is gonna stay here spinning. So what core 0 does is it essentially does a load word of release, sees 0, and will check again. And it keeps doing that. Now let's see what happens when core 1 arrives. Normally what should happen is core 1 arrives, doesn't do this because count is now 1, increments the count, exits the critical section, sees that the count is equal to 2, resets the count, sets the release to 1, and now core 1 proceeds past the barrier. What should happen now is core 0 should see this release that we just set to 1 and also proceed past the barrier. So what should happen is really that we set the release to 1 here, and core 0 sees that, exits the barrier, and from then everything will actually be correct. But let's say that core 0 has been checking the release. However, when the store happens, core 0 is delayed. For example, it's executing some sort of an interrupt function, so for a while it's suspended in this place in the code and cannot read the release fast enough. In that case, we don't have this, and core 0 is still stuck here. In a correct barrier implementation, core 0 will eventually leave. At some point, it will return from the interrupt, read the release that is 1, and proceed. However, what happens if core 0 is waiting here while core 1, after releasing and exiting the barrier, does very little work and then comes back to the barrier again? It sees that the count is 0 because it reset it to 0 when it was releasing the barrier and sets the release to 1. And now it writes 0 to the release variable. And now even if core 0 checks the release here and sees what it is, it's gonna see this 0. So core 0 is gonna proceed to wait here for a very long time. Meanwhile, core 1 increments the count to 1, checks if it's equal to 2 for this second iteration of the barrier. It's not 2, so core 1 is now gonna spin waiting for somebody to release the second instance of the barrier, while core 0 is gonna be waiting there in the first instance of the barrier and never being released. So the only thing that can release core 1 now is if core 0 somehow left and entered the second instance of the barrier. The only thing that can release core 0, however, is if somebody comes and releases here, but that's not gonna be core 2. So now we have a deadlock situation.